Greatness in writing fiction, or even just completing a novel or short story, demands a balance of critical and creative thinking. Using only one produces poor or unfinished work. Using both, but at the wrong times, leads to the same disappointment. Let me run through the story writing process. I will show you when and how to use these crucial abilities to transform the quality of your writing and the speed of your progress. First, let me set out some brief definitions. Creative thinking means generating a new way of achieving a goal. Critical thinking, by contrast, means evaluating what is already there and seeing how effective it is at achieving that goal. This is the contrast. These two are opposites, but opposites can attract. The secret is this: knowing how to toggle between the two. You go from one to the other, and never both at the same time. That is like being in the driver's seat of a car and pressing down on the accelerator and the brake in the same moment. It just doesn't work. Now let me show you how to toggle by going through the story writing process. A good place to start is with the theme of your story. We unlock the first mode here. This is critical thinking. You ask, what is society missing that would help people lead meaningful lives? What do people need? What are they calling out for? And you look at the data. These could be anecdotes from friends. You could compare modern times to previous societies. You could even look at the news, for example, or take a book that you have read. Me personally, I've been listening a lot to John Vervaeke's work on the meaning crisis. So I'm going to use that as the example theme for this video. He describes the meaning crisis as a sense of disconnection from ourselves, from other people, from the world, from a sense of purpose in life. The important point to note here is that the critical thinking sets the parameters for your creative thinking. It demarcates a space within which you let your thoughts free. Now we have the theme, we switch to creative thinking and ask, what is the most visceral way to convey this theme? First, you run through the associated ideas in your mind. So sense of isolation, busy modern lives, large impersonal urban environments, the fall of religion. And creative thinking is brilliant at connecting an idea with a symbol, with a real life example. I got a spark. I remembered a church in London that is situated like an island between two major roads. There's no crossing to get to it. People are just driving past, going about their busy, noisy lives. Even once you get inside, you can hear the traffic through the stained glass windows. And also on the outside, you have the black surface, the pollution. Here you have one symbol. Keep engaging that creative mindset. Reach out for further ideas. When you have an array of options in front of you, that is when you switch out of the creative thinking and switch on the critical brain, because you are going to evaluate their quality, their effectiveness at communicating the theme. The go-to way of doing this is to look at what makes for a successful novel. What are the basic tenets? Okay, we need a strong conflict and resolution. The stakes need to be high. We need a clear structure and a strong, striking conclusion. Review those options and discount them based on these criteria. You can also use feedback from others as an extension of this critical thinking process. that gets you down to the most effective story idea. Now it's time to get creative again. What are possible ways of giving this life, making it feel real? Dig down into your characters. How does he speak? What is his word choice? How does he use his body? What does he tend to focus on? Throw a lot of ideas down onto the page. You should be into the rhythm now and predict what's next. You have your ideas and it's selection time. You move back into critical thinking. What is most consistent with the theme? If a man is going through a meaning crisis, then his speech may be indecisive. His body language is probably going to be small and lacking in confidence. Maybe he hesitates around what to do or can't decide what to focus on. But your critical mind goes one step further and questions those assumptions. Maybe the opposite would work even more effectively. Maybe on the outside he is pretending, he is bluffing. It's like that song, The Great Pretender, and he has loud, overly confident body language and speech, but he is hiding the uncertainty and the nervousness that is lurking inside. You decide that the latter makes for a more interesting story. That is the critical thinking phase over. Back to the creative phase. What is a creative way of showing this in the story? Okay, maybe he's making his entrance into the church, going up the stairs, and there's a group of people there, and he greets them with massive enthusiasm, sort of fake forced laughter, bad jokes. But as soon as they are gone, his smile fades and he tiptoes away to a quiet, dark corner of the church where he can have a fragile moment to himself, and he starts to pray. I hope you're getting a good impression now of how to toggle between the critical and creative thinking sides of writing. You may have noticed that as we went through, that transition got faster, but we were still making a clear separation between them. Now we move on. We move on to the first draft, but our writer makes their first mistake. They forget this lesson. Mistake 1. Like many, the writer finishes their first paragraph and stops. They go back, they find a couple of things they don't like, and so they delete it and rewrite it. If this happens to you, there should be warning sirens sounding in your mind. Just keep going. Write cleanly all the way to the end of the story as your first draft in one go. Do not look down. Do not stop to look behind you. Keep moving until the end. You separate the creative thinking from the critical thinking by using an interval of time. That could be a day or a week depending on your schedule, but what is crucial is maintaining that separation. But our writer has not listened. They commit mistake 2 in the edit. They start out in critical thinking mode. This is great. We're editing. We're evaluating. But soon they notice a couple of things they don't like. Again, they stop. The warning sirens should be sounding. They do a couple of rewrites. They do a first version, but there's something missing. They do a second version and it feels a bit staid. And the critic is called a critic for a reason. They will start judging themselves as a writer. They will keep working up new alternatives until they just give up and settle for something average and move on to the next paragraph. But what they have done is tired themselves out. They have undermined both their critical thinking and creative thinking abilities because they are now frustrated. Their pace has slowed. They continue like this, mixing critical and creative thinking, back and forth, stop and start, and they are going nowhere fast. Instead, they should read the whole story in critical thinking, only making a brief comment where they notice room for improvement. They note it and park it. Next week, they come back and they try to rework each section by engaging the creative side of their brain, but not right now. This is the biggest takeaway. One, then the other. One, then the other. If you catch yourself doing both at the same time, you can say, I'm trying to accelerate and brake in the same instance. It's madness. It's not going to work. If you ingrain this into your system, you will feel in control, masterful, and your writing will progress faster than ever before. I want to leave you with a final idea for triggering these two mindsets. You want an image to serve as a primer, as a way of getting into a critical or creative mood. Let me share some examples as inspiration. For the creative side, you may want to imagine yourself playing as a child, but then for the critical side, you become a high court judge, old, grizzled, middle-aged, used to mahogany furnishings. Maybe you've been through a few divorces, you're chomping on cynicism. That is the persona that you can channel. Another way of thinking about the creative side is to imagine you're in a 4x4, exploring the wilderness. But then to get critical, imagine you're an F1 driver, looking to shave a millisecond off your time round the track and analyzing the technical approach to each bend. A final idea, why not, is for the creative side to think of yourself as an impressionist painting with these vague, broad brush strokes. But for the critical side, you become a realist, very, very focused on the detail and portraying the clarity of real life on that canvas. As a call to action, let me know in the comments which image you chose to prime yourself to engage these mindsets, and which phase of writing you find most challenging when it comes to using the creative and critical aspects of your brain. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and that way I'll see you next week.